city level?
Yeah, you can put it in a car now. You can put it in
Okay, yeah.
you can do it in a car, you can do it on a small scale, you can do it on a large scale.
That's good. Yeah, because these other guys are pretty much only big scale projects. Like they only do massive things. And their model is a little bit different. Like basically you just buy the electricity, but they install everything themselves, like with no cost. But it has to be like a big scale project, you know? So that's why it's good for the city of Austin. But we do need a technology that's good for smaller communities, you know?
So before Steve gets here, I just want to kind of drop with you a little something really quick. Oh, we have another guy showing, and who knows who else. I was talking to Barbara Marks, the INACS of LA, the International Neuroscience and Consciousness, which is this really big group, looking for a solution to a new governance. And they're coming to Barbara for it because she's like this, leader, right? Transformational leader. So she came to me about it. And basically it helped me kind of refine like where this fits in with politics. And basically the reason I thought of you is because our conversation where I mentioned the videos. And I want to update you on how I see this being a new form of governance all in itself, where the agreements are the captain. So no one's the captain, kind of like we the people, same thing, right? Our global solutionary fundraisers, we're actually premiering the event, We the People, the film with Sharon Stone's one of the ones that produced it, and some other people on our team. And this is the meeting we'll have in Austin here in a little bit if we're able to all show up. And the politics look like this. Or the way that I see it happening is that video we're going to outline like basically today on this call. This is part of our co-creative process, and I'll show you how this has been working, and it's been working really well. And we're going to outline basically like the different solutions as looking at it as a next step approach, not solutions to the existing old world, but focusing on systemic change, next steps to build the new world. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll have the panels of experts come in, do their videos with their solutions that they propose. We will have people be able to match up to those and say, I want to help with that. Then they can go through the declaration of agreements. They can do a tribe match. They can do a declaration of agreements. Tribe match can actually get them in there first. And then declaration where they say, okay, here's our shared agreements towards our world intention. And then they can go into organizational level agreements from there, which is where they can start to work on teams, on projects together. So we can have a decentralized contribution economy. Secondly to that, we have a membership program that we are developing now with a couple platforms. Hey, Steve's here. I don't know if we're going to be able to hear him. Are you here, Steve? He's probably figured. You got your mic on, Steve? You might have to figure out your mic. Can't hear you yet. So I'll continue until he gets his mic going. And Steve, I did download him with this today because we met up. Well, not all of it, not the membership part. So basically where we're at is we have the solutions, people match to them. Then they get matched up. They're in a pool of people that are all wanting to do the solution together. Now they need to know how they're going to work together, right? So they need to have that down. They need to have the master planning down, which has to do with a little bit more of the next steps. And so what we're creating now is a next step process, which we can do on these calls also. So what that would look like, part of this membership model that we're coming up with is you can put your... There he is. Hey, Steve.
Hey. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Steve.
Yeah.
Travis.
Who am I speaking with? Travis. All right. Nice to meet you, Travis.
How you doing, brother?
Good.
Cool.
All right.
Where are you out of? Where's Travis out of?
I'm in Austin.
Oh, you're in Austin as well. Okay, cool. So we should meet up then.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a candidate for mayor.
What's that?
I'm a candidate for mayor.
Are you really? Well, you got my vote already then.
Appreciate it, man.
Super cool. Yeah. So I want to so I want to finish explaining this, and then we'll jump to the call. The membership model, just to update you guys, and whoever is watching this as part of our declaration. As I'll pass it out to the team. The membership model is going to allow us to have people that are working on the system like us, and that have access to everything as a part of everything that we're sharing. So people can put in open source first, throw it in the pot, have it in an organized place that people that are in the agreement field universal can access. Just point blank. You get pulled in, you can access it. Then there's things that aren't open source. And this is where we want these companies that are working in silos, especially right now the websites like Ubuntu and New Earth Nation and all these people that are COEO that are doing different things. We've got a few people already that are going to jump on with us in this way. And what it looks like is the membership money goes to the outline that we're going to build today on the call. It goes to building out the platforms. So actually, let me add something to. Hold on, sorry. Platform outline, and then we have world next step solution outline, and then so we have those two things that we'll be covering. Not all today, but on our calls. And then we're gonna decide what we think are the most important next steps between us. And as a new team comes in, let's say it's COEO, and they say, "Hey, we want to play with you guys." So it uses the consortium model where you get the top scientists to work together to create the ultimate platform, and you get the adoption of all of their networks. So that the problem right now with our tech platforms is we have no adoption rate because we're doing it separately. So it's kind of like creating the supercar that can compete with the gas cars. In this case, we can't compete with these big websites unless we join together. It's just not going to happen. So what this does is the membership takes the cash and it puts it towards something that we all get to share as a part of our membership. And it gives us a full solution to our internal database, our shared working platforms and communication, and then of course social networking, and whatever else that we need as a next step. And then as a new company comes in, we're going to have to come up with a next step process. And next step process. This is something that hasn't been done, so we can do them on our calls. That allows like the next steps that we've defined as an outline. Like we're just going to have an outline. So it just says like, this is everything that's possibly needed to get there. Like they could add a piece if like, it's a little harder to add a piece to the outline, but they probably could, if we really a respected company and we all saw like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it might be a little harder, but it'll be pretty easy for them to kind of go, here's next steps, and create a kind of a new. And so when we get all of our money combined together, we combine up and work on those next steps. Now we won't want to change those for every 4 to 6 months or something, because people are going to be moving towards those. And if we don't want to reallocate money, or maybe we allocate the money for the next 4 months, and then if something does change, so this is the process that we get to make basically.
And so basically we're paying a subscription for ourselves to collectively decide what to use. And maybe the answer to that last point is that each different initiative requires a different funding period. And so each will be like nuanced.
Well, we're hoping to combine them. That way we're not doing the same thing twice. And we can all kind of agree. They can go, oh, here's my next steps. And we can say, great, let's help you fund that with the money we have. and so that you're not doing it over here separately, but we're going to pay.
Right. That's what I was saying is like that initiative. Because you were saying 4 to 6 months. One might require like a little bit over 2 years, whereas another one might require a certain amount over 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is amazing. I do have to run pretty soon. But are we gonna catch up as well this weekend? Are we meeting up somewhere?
We sure can. Yeah. What's your, you gave me some availability dates, and what I'll do is I'll get back to those, and I'm going to see if anyone else answers. But if not, me and you have a lot to catch up on separately anyway.
Yeah.
And then we can meet up with the team about the fundraising event that's coming that we can all, are you going to Portugal?
I am. Yeah. So we're leaving.
I missed it.
Yeah. We're leaving Monday night. So that's the thing. And then I get back on the 24th.
Are they paying for you, or are you paying to go?
We just paid, we didn't,
Maybe you could represent our fundraising group there and present something and have a booth that we can take nonprofits, because the Portugal event said that they would donate 5% to us, basically. So there's already a 5% we can bring into the solutionary fundraisers, and then people get to choose from there at the booth which projects to donate to, and you can have a little video of each one.
Well, that's the thing too, is my wife Holly Raja is coming as well. And so, we're going to have a lot, I have no idea what to expect. I'm excited to connect on the level to see what this international community is happening. Because really, it's funny, it's Anarcha, Portugal, but in this state system, nobody's an anarchist, like we want the right to be anarchists, you know what I mean? So there's got to be that transitional next step, and this is the elements of that. So let's definitely connect. I think Saturday night, Sunday night as well. So
I will choose a night and let's connect. Saturday night sounds fun, because then we can go maybe do something else too.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, last question before you leave. On the declaration, I have a new invite, which I guess I want to send you. Can you just give me your email again?
Yeah, you can send it to We Are the Mayor ATX. I guess that works. We Are the Mayor ATX at Gmail.
Okay. So it's a Gmail. That's good. Okay, I'm going to send you the updated invite. Have you gone through the agreements yet or not?
I'm sorry, man. I've been so busy with the campaign.
Don't worry about it. I'm going to send you the invite. If you're in alignment with the invite, then I send you the agreements. It's not that long to read. 5 minutes.
Okay, cool.
If you're a full understanding and a whole body yes, then you get added to the all the access to all the stuff, and you're fully in.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you, brother.
All right.
Hey, nice to see you, Steve. And
Nice to meet you. I'm sure we'll talk again.
yeah, we'll connect soon. Yeah.
When are you coming back from Portugal?
I'll be back on the 25th, and then I'm here until the election. So this is the last last trip before the final 3-month push, and we got a lot of tricks up our sleeve too. We got an app that we're building as well, and a bunch of different angles.
I'll check out your website as well. So
yes, wearethemayor.com.
Okay. Check
right.
that out.
Well, thank y'all, and have a great meeting. I'm sorry I can't stay longer, but we'll connect soon.
All right. We'll talk to you
Have a
soon.
good one.
Bye.
Later. Cool. All right. I'm going to screen share with you and show you kind of what we're going off of here. So I'm adding these to our little database. So I'm going to show you the process. And this call is going to be just to let you know, Steve, even though it's like a declaration call, it's catching you and him up. That's why I got his email to catch him up. And you're probably caught up a lot, but you don't know the behind the scenes stuff that how it works, which is what I'm going to show you.
Okay.
And this might be a good place for other people to catch up on this call to see, because it's recorded. All the calls are recorded because we're in a tight-knit group. It doesn't go out to the public at this point unless we get to those kind of calls. So that'd be a separate kind of call specifically designated for the public. But these are all used for our internal. We're all a group. These are the things I want to add to our process. As you know, when you go to the declaration, I'm going to my Google Drive. You can open it two at the same time. In fact, if you're able to do that on your computer, open it on up and go into the declaration, go into the overview, and go into the co-created future. Okay. Now, what we made is an outline for the new paradigm. It's very vague. Human energy, decision-making, currencies, shared platforms, technologies that fit in. So this is like an outline of just the whole thing. Now, what we are wanting to fill in, and this is all going, by the way, when I go to the declaration, I can actually go access it here or by my folders. When I go to the space agreements and I go to the co-creation here manual, this is actually the manual we're using to run our calls right now.
Okay.
So what it is it tells you we have a fixed intent, which is already there. And in this case, in the call, our intent would be one of these things. It would either be to outline and fill in our next steps process and how we match next steps with each other. So if I have one company A and company B and they want to work together and they already said how they're going to work together. Like they both, for instance, they both say, we're nonprofit, great. Going towards the same place, great. Structured in the same way, great. Now, what are the next steps? They may have a different idea of that, correct? So yeah. we would come up with a process of how we can kind of combine that. So that would be an intent for this call as an example. And then the world next steps solution outline. So this is for our solutionary videos that people come on and so we're going to outline that so that whenever we have solutionaries bunching up and matching together to match people into solution categories that then get filtered into our groups. We have that outlined so that those videos of experts don't get too dispersed into talking about animal husbandry and farming, stuff that's just not really like directly connected. So we can keep a focus.
Right.
And then there's the platform outline, which I don't think is for this call. But basically, it's right here already, so I can delete that. It's right here. It's shared platforms. So for instance, communications. So I'll just say social networking. And then what's the other one called? It's the back office stuff. It's project management, right? So we need to have shared platforms for project management. Okay, so these are the examples of the kind of things we're outlining. So these would be all considered, I'm just calling it New Paradigm instead of New Earth for now. Because I think that a new paradigm explains it better. A new Earth signifies that the whole Earth has changed, but it really hasn't. It's just how we're interacting.
Right. Makes sense.
And it's a big goal. It's so far in the future that we can't really say that we're doing that exactly. A lot of people may not agree with us. So we're just creating our paradigm for ourselves. So this would be a title, New Paradigm outline. And then we're gonna add to that a next step process. Next step process. And then we need to figure out what that looks like. Title. And then a world next step solution outline. And I don't know if this is the same. That's not really, it's kind of solutions. That's it. It's the next step solutions. Let's call it that. New paradigm, next step solutions outline. Okay, so we're on the same page. Okay, so what we're doing is we filled in last time the funding models, and that was our whole call. So me and you get to decide, do we want to do human energy and flow, decision making, currencies, shared platform, technologies that fit in, or the next steps process?
Well, what do you think is the priority that we should go over right now? The first step.
I think we could do good with decision making, and we can add other stuff into here. Technologies that fit in is going to be a big thing. You know, I think that'd probably be better to do with like a bigger group.
Okay.
We could do the next step process or the decision making.
Yeah, let's go over decision making. That sounds like a good one.
Okay. And then we might have another call afterwards. So right now, what we're using is a consensus hybrid. And how that looks, so I'll fill this one in, and then if you have another one, you can tell me. How that looks is, that's for the declaration. All people agree on everything within a matched master plan and sub-master plan. Okay, so if I would agree with you on a sub-master plan. Let's say that the master plan says, build us 3, we all agreed, everyone in the whole collective agrees that we're going to build 3 houses. Me and you are the builders, and we're on the building team. And the master plan says we need 3 houses built on the farm on the hill, and they all need to be built with local materials, all organic material, and 1,000 square foot each with, a 10 by 10 deck or whatever, right? Like something.
Okay.
We would create a sub-master plan that says, okay, here's how we're going to build it. We would choose our materials. We would do the budget. We would create the whole plan to build these houses. And this might take us a year or 2, who knows? And so we would gain our own consensus on that because we're planning together and working together. We know how we vibe together. We create together good. We've already established that before you even became a team, right?
Right.
So we come up with a proposal. We all, get it all fleshed out together as master planners, and it's all within the boundaries of the master plan, and we shoot that out to the network and say, look, guys, here's our proposal. Now everyone gets a chance to pitch in their ideas and say, okay, well, what about this or not? And we could say, yes, and cool, let's adopt it. Or we could say, well, we don't think so because, and give a reason, because, we are the experts, and we would give a reason. Now, if let's just say that 80% of everyone but us votes that thing that got rejected back in, they go, no, this actually is a good idea. We know that you're the experts. We heard your reasoning, and we want to vote it back in. Then we would have a chance to actually compare the two in an official stage. And at the end result, we could use our values that we agreed on in the beginning as a collective to within our organization to show us which decision's more in line with our values, if we can't come up with a solution together.
Wouldn't it be wouldn't it make it easier on the decision making if let's say we have specific policies in place that let's say there's specific policies that govern the entire community. Every single person is affected by it, right? and we establish, the consensus, wouldn't it be easier to go back to, does this align with our policy? And if it aligns, wouldn't it make it less redundant to now go back over it again and get approval on a consensus? I know that consensus of agreements can be difficult and can drag out for long periods of time. So wouldn't putting in some sort of policy mechanism allow for faster decision making if the policies have already been agreed to?
All right, I wrote that in there. So these are all different options that we have. So right now we're just outlining it. So it's not, we just outline everything that's possible right now. I mean, you could even put voting in here, although I personally don't think that's a good solution to the next steps myself. Some people do. But anyhow.
No, I'm not necessarily a voter either. What I look at is, give an example. Let's say we have a community of 100 people, right?
Uh-huh.
And a decision needs to be made, but it will only affect 50% of the people, right?
Okay.
Then I would say that particular decision only needs to be determined between the 50% people. Now, let's say all of a sudden, let's take it down to a smaller level. Let's say a guy is going to build a fence between his house and another guy's house. Well, there's only 2 people involved there in that decision. You see?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I don't know exactly what you call this, but it would seem that if depending on what the situation is and what is being looked at and addressed, if it's going to affect everyone, then yes, you'd need the 100% consensus. But if it's not going to affect everyone, but it's only going to affect a small percentage of people, then wouldn't it be wise just to keep it between that small percentage of people? That way it would keep it simpler, smoother, a lot less bureaucracy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens in the consensus hybrid. So exactly. So I wrote that out. I wrote that out for you. I wrote it in there because it's a consensus hybrid. So what you're saying is everyone agrees within who's affected, which is part of the hybrid model. That's why it's a hybrid, because in some consensus model, everyone on every decision.
Okay, good.
So what we're writing here is just the solutions that we see as, that me and you and whoever's on the call see as the best.
Right.
And alignment, you mentioned it. I haven't thought of that. We may be able to mix that in with the consensus at some point, just like up here on the funding models, membership and contributionism and gift economy. We figured that we could actually mesh at some point in the future. So if we had contributionism, where we're all working on teams and everyone's clear, and you go to the hardware store and you get your nails and hammer, and they know, like, they scan it in because they know it's part of the project. It's part of the material list. You're not building anything that's not for the community. You're not building your own home, because that's not possible in the contribution. And then you could also have gifts. So apart from the contribution and the teams and the work that we're doing as a collective, an individual might also just be able to say, hey, borrow my car for the next 2 days. Make sure you bring it back and fill the tank.
Right.
So they could actually just, no strings attached. Like, there's nothing that you need to do to reciprocate.
Right.
So that would be a mix, because you can still do a gift within the contribution. So in this case, we're saying within decisions, we may mix them, down the road, or maybe right away, maybe down the road, where we have everyone agree on everything. And if it really comes down to it, we take into account our policies, our agreements, our values, whatever else.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things I see wrong that makes the government bureaucracies out of control, is they have this beautiful constitution written up, it's well laid out, and where it isn't well laid out, then it's understandable to have to fill in a little bit additional information. But a lot of times, you've got an amendment that says freedom of speech, and then they get into writing a whole volume of laws of what is freedom of speech, and that's ridiculous. It means you can say what you need to say. It's like, and it's just it just gets ridiculous. It's like they've got a law that says you don't kill somebody, but then they have to sit there and start defining. Well, you can't kill somebody with a knife. You can't kill them with the pitchfork. You know what I mean? It gets ridiculous. So.
And that's laws. That's when you don't get a whole body yes to it. They start going crazy with it. They go, I can just write any laws, and everyone has to agree to it. And they get so crazy with it, they become so detailed that it's like, it's too much structure. And so what we're doing here is we're actually putting a little bit of structure is our hope, to put a little structure. And we did this at Tribalize, where she said, okay, everyone, stand up, grab hands, and follow me. I'm going to move to the right. The whole room moved to the right. I'm going to move to the left. Everyone moved to the left. With that little bit of structure, she all of a sudden had everyone from doing their own thing to doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I understand. A little bit of structure is needed. You have to keep things organized. You have to keep things in control. But yeah, it can get to a point where it can get ridiculous. So it's keeping the right balance, So.
Yeah, if no one could scratch their knee, and everyone has to keep their hands clasped all the time, and it's got to be this and that. We're humans. Like, what if we have an itch, or what if we're uncomfortable, or we want to dance, or it just kind of keeps us from being fun. It turns boring.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you're saying alignment decision making. Do you want to fill that out? Does it align with our policy? I mean, that's pretty simple to me. Do you want to add anything to that?
Not at this point. I think as we go forward and there's more questions regarding it, then we might want to, better define it. But policies, agreements, values, etc. Yeah, maybe we could add a little bit to. Let's see here. I don't know how to do it from my phone. I'm not on a computer, so I could probably.
I'll do it for you. Don't worry. Tell me what you want.
Well, let me give you some data, and then you figure out how you want to write it so that it makes sense. Give an example. When it comes to engineering, right? There's already a technology on engineering, okay? And when it comes to, if you take a look in society, when they start drawing up plans, they start coming up with all kinds of different rules regarding that particular city or province or state. But that's something separate from the actual physical laws of engineering. You know what I mean? Or how to drive a car. You get the idea? So those would be things that would have that could have set criteria. If you're trying to work out what the average bearing load would be, you'd work out by the same rules and laws and mathematics that's already in place. There'd be no reason to change it at this point. We would just use that. If something came up later and somebody wanted to change it, then it could be brought up and, amongst the people who are engineers and go, would this be a good change? And we go, yeah, that makes more sense, But we sort of just try to align around technology, try to align around what works, what doesn't work, so we don't get into this, how like in government, they get into a lot of crazy stuff about how should we fund this project, and then they do it all different, They figure out how to make money out of thin air, and they do all this. Where physical law says, you gotta make a certain amount of, you
production.
You create a product, you sell it, you have to there has to be a certain amount of production and exchange. There has to be a certain exchange rate. It's just physical law that if it doesn't occur, you're going to be broke. You get the idea?
Yeah.
But it mixes in with people's ideas, and all of a sudden we've got, you know, a $20 trillion debt based on nothing. Where did this money go? What's it funding? Where, you know, everybody's been put in debt over it for the benefit of a small few people. You get the idea? So.
Yeah. Okay. So does this, I just want to tie it in. Does this tie into, how does that tie into a solution for decision making? Or was that just an idea?
I guess I was just trying to throw some data out there, and I guess the idea would be like, if you're working out a solution on something, you're going, okay, you know, let's say we need to have the water flow coming in this direction so that it's not going to wipe out our camp. You see what I mean? And so there would be some actual physical law there where everybody say, yeah, you know, okay, that makes sense. We've got the rain's going to come down, it's going to run through, so we're going to have to figure out a way to redirect the water away from here so it doesn't wipe everybody out. We can leave that into the hands of the engineer, let them work it out how they need to do that. You know what I mean? And then the engineers would basically follow already agreed upon policies and stuff. Give an example, like one of the policies of the community could be that we're using solar and wind, but there's going to be no gasoline motors. You see what I mean? And if everybody agrees, hey, you know what, we've already got, you know, so there you get your consensus agreement going, where you say, yeah, we don't want any gasoline blowing on this property at all, period, end of, you know what I mean? We find other solutions. And then we make a policy on it. Now, other people have a little bit more freedom. They just know that they can't use gasoline motors. That's just an example of one possible solution or idea of a policy going in place that then later a person comes up with something. He goes, well, I'm going to put this solar power on my roof. That doesn't affect the major policy of no gas, so it's not a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's a misalignment. So you have an alignment decision making. I just want to boil it down into something I can type into the decision making, so we can kind of, the point of the energy circle. Let me read it. I just want to read it to you really quick. So
sure.
my job as the what I'm taking the position right now of because I've just learned it from Mike Upstone, and this is something we're practicing with. We're doing the energy circle. This is what I didn't finish showing you earlier. There's the energy circle, and then there's the listening circle. So how the idea is this: whenever you're either in the energy circle and you're coming up with ideas and you're putting it down, you're just kind of going for it, or if things start slowing down, you go to a listening circle, which is just everyone talks as long as they need to. So the listening circle's right here, and then the energy circle's here. So the key roles of the chair is to value people's time, ensure positive progress is made, where possible, suggest practical compromises, retain group focus, energy, and positive momentum effectiveness, support the intention and implementation of the team's processes and agreements, and in doing so, ensure everyone gets heard, keep a focus on positive solutions, da-da-da-da-da. So the point here is to fill out directly fill out the solutions to decision making. So what I got here, so just to bring the context, what I got here is a consensus hybrid, which is where everyone agrees to things within circles of influence. That's simple.
Okay, that keeps it simple, right?
Everyone agrees on everything within a circle of influence. using a matched master plan, submaster plan. Okay.
Okay.
Alignment is what you brought in, which is a part of the consensus. We have it as values based on but what I actually heard this weekend is it's not something we have to put in the consensus, because what I actually heard this weekend was, there's another method of keeping working on exploring something until you do come up with but then there's also the good enough for now. It's like, hey, can we do a good enough for now? So it's consensus. Next step would be you have that. If you can't do both, there's all these layers. If you can't do both, and once we have a situation where we're not having any, and this is what I learned this weekend again, there's a guy doing a town with absolutely no money, not even a transition like we're doing, which is very interesting. I want to support him because I think it's really great. And now it's really funny because he can't get tagged on anything. No, he doesn't have to make these crazy contracts or pay taxes or anything. He's got acceptance by a place in California by I don't know if it's the state or whatever. So he's got acceptance to do this because they know that he'll bring in some kind of tourism, and the tourists are not going to be spending any money at his spot because he doesn't accept it. No money.
Interesting. Send me a link on that guy. I'd like to check it out. Sounds interesting.
Yeah. And so basically, if you're not dealing with any money, you can easily just say, do whatever solution you want as long as it's within the master plan. We don't have to ever agree on anything. You pick your team and do it, and you pick your team and do it. You know what I mean? Yeah, because it really comes down to, we only have enough funding to do one of these two solutions. But if you're just talking manpower, you can't stop anyone from doing something within the agreement that's already within all of your policies, like you're saying, and your agreements and your values. If it's
right
within that, go for it. Form a team and do it, right?
Okay.
So it's really interesting.
Yeah, maybe there's no more to add to it. Then it's pretty clear and concise there.
Yeah, there's two methodologies. There's decision iteration methodology and decision resolution methodology. The consensus hybrid is more about the decision iteration. It's how we make decisions, and it ties in with the master plans is actually when you form those, you actually decide on your team who you're working with and how you're doing it. So it's kind of like how you're making decisions. And then when you just get stuck and you just can't, it's just last option, and you've tried coaching, you've tried everything, then you run to the you might have to say, okay, does it align with our value? We're going to have to choose one. That's a decision resolution. You're resolving it once and for all.
Decision resolution. Interesting. Okay.
And so these are processes. So you do the consensus, and if that doesn't work, you run to the next one. You go coaching. Like coaching is actually a decision-making process. Even though it's not a resolution, it's iteration. So I'm just going to put coaching in here.
Sounds like similar what they do in mediation, where you're trying to bring two people together on something,
Yeah, trying to find a third solution between two solutions. Because it's not even people, it's solutions now. Because, there's different people. They're going to, two or more.
Right.
And then there's coaching. And then beyond coaching kind of has a facilitator, which I think it's always important to have. And I guess that can look like a person facilitating or a process even, really.
Yeah. If you use the process, you're using sort of like a procedure or policy to utilize.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that would look, but I know it's possible. I mean, so I don't want to just exit. I don't want to say it's a person or a group of people, because it may not be that at all. It could just be a process. So it could be like group one. It could just be a process. Group one speaks, then group two. Maybe there's no moderator. Who knows?
Right.
Okay, so we have coaching. So we have consensus. We have coaching. We have the resolution through policies, agreements, and values, which I think is a better resolution than 80% versus 20. You guys don't agree, but you lose. Because now you're saying, yeah, we're taking this other decision over that one, but I'm going to say third solution, doing both solutions. That's actually a decision resolution. We resolved it because we just do both. It's actually a way of making decisions.
That's true. That is a way of handling it. So.
When, if possible, do both.
You know, that works real good with, like, if you've got if you're trying to solve something and there's been no real solution before, then you run two different projects simultaneous. Have one person run one project, have the other person run another project. The one that gets the better results becomes the one that gets adopted, you know? So.
Yeah, and that's how we run, you know, it's kind of like Burning Man. It's like you throw an event, you say, we're going to do this workshop, and whoever shows up is how successful it is. It's kind of simple. You don't have to, yeah, and if you end up gathering a bunch of people, you get a bigger stage. It's pretty organic. It's not whoever has the most money and they got a big empty stadium while the person that has a bunch of people is packed in with a small stadium because they didn't have enough money or whatever.
Right.
So that way the group is kind of self-organized and we don't have to really like look at, yeah, because we just have to worry about the capacity of everyone and just divide that into a couple different size stages. There's only a certain amount of people in the city.
Yep.
All right, so we have, and then we just run a certain amount of events at a time. So, yeah, can you think of anything else? I think.
Well, you know, that one really, I think that one, doing both, is an interesting solution because that was what I was thinking about in regards to a potential financing option. Let's give an example. Imagine if society right now wanted to put money toward, let's say 30% of the people wanted to build a bridge, right? And 70% of the people did not want to build a bridge, right? And the taxes were collected from 100% of the people. And so they say, okay, well, instead of saying 70% of the people don't want the bridge and 30% of the people do, so we're going to just not build the bridge because 70% of the people don't want it, we say, okay, well, 70% didn't approve of it, so they don't fund it. 30% did approve of it, so their taxes goes towards funding it. You get the idea?
Yeah.
It sort of brings in where it allows both solutions, and it allows the people to put towards what they want and not put towards what they don't want. Now, if those 30% people only accumulates half the budget for that bridge, and then they can't build the bridge based on natural law. We need the best of the money. So they either have to come up with more money or they're going to have to put it on the back burner for when they've paid enough into it to actually build it, you know?
Yeah. And so
I think that can work real good in community, you know?
Yeah. And the funny part, you know, another thing that might come into play, it really does depend a lot on the funding. Like, if we get to the point, which I believe we will really soon, where we have enough funding to do multiple things, we may have, you know, we really want to have, I think we really want to have the coaching first, where we try to kind of integrate the solutions as much as possible.
Right.
And I think we can refine that process so well that we just identify all the overlap. We have all of our open source resources that we share. You know, we really figure out what the master plan is, how many houses do we need to build? Do we need to build 3? Okay, well, there's 3 different solutions. Let's build 3 different kinds. You know, each house is going to take this many people to build. You want to do a solution that is different from 80% of the people that want to do the other solution. That's fine,
Right.
but you still need to build a team of at least 10 people because it's going to take 10 to build this house.
Right.
And maybe
Exactly.
even 10 capable people.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, I see what you're saying. The coaching sounds like that would be a good way of handling it before moving to the next. So yeah, it looks like you've got different decision making in a scale, working from the top down to the bottom, depending on what is actually going to work for that circumstance. So
I think it's pretty top to bottom. I would say you start here because you're just, this is kind of has to do with actually this. Yeah, this is the master plan process, which kind of dictates like the whole thing. Like you really don't need to make decisions after that. Like you're clear for the next.
Well, a lot of times the policy down at alignment decision making would be the policy that was created at the consensus hybrid,
The policy, yeah, that would be part of the master plan or sub.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and the values would be part of the master plan. And then the agreements are sort of a part of it. I mean, if you're in a universal agreement field and there's something that just goes directly against it, you would take a look at that and go, look, as we compare these two solutions, you're outside of the intention of the whole group. Of what we've all decided is okay here. Now, I don't see how with, it would be a rare circumstance because, these are designed to give us a very broad, but it might be the agreements within the organization, which is way more defined than the universal.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is what everyone signed up to. So I like that. I like that you added that. So this is what's so good about doing this together is if we had more people, it would probably be even clearer here. So I feel pretty good about that. Would you like to jump over to the next step process?
Yeah, let's go to the next step process. That sounds pretty good. So
cool. We'll fill that in and then we'll decide if we want to call it or if you have any questions. So this is something we need to outline. We always outline it first. So we have, and feel free to jump in if you understand.
Sure.
We have person one and person two. So we have person or company, let's say organization, group one, next steps. And then we have group two, next steps. That's our basic starting point.
Okay.
Now our intention here, I'm going to actually put an intention on this one. I think I have to put it below the way this thing works. Okay. So intention is to merge the next steps. So we just say, I would say that the first thing is you outline. So next steps is an next steps is not an outline. Next steps is next steps. For instance, I might have next steps on building the foundation of a house. And someone else might come in that does foundation and walls, which is after foundation. So they may have a little different perspective they're coming in from, and they may have some similar next steps to us, but some different. So the outline has to do, so my outline might be a different context. So it's like, I might be talking about just the foundation where they're talking about the whole house. They might be a whole systems designer versus someone that does business, that does funding, which is a piece of the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a whole different context. It's like the earth revolving around the sun versus the sun rises in the east and sets to the west. They're both valid contexts depending on, am I lost in the woods? I want to know how to track the sun from east to west. That's what I want as a context. And I want to study and know about that so I can get out of the woods before night. So the point being, the first you outline the whole process and see where in that outline you fit. Look at outline. I'm gonna say look at the outline of the whole process and see where in that outline you each fit. So this is kind of the outline we're doing right here. Because our next, it's kind of like this, like where do we fit in here? Are we talking about energy flow, decision making? And this is gonna get even clearer when we decide what are the next, when we put these in order and we say, okay, the first thing's the foundation, guys. We gotta get our agreements down and get on the same organizational agreement level. Otherwise, we can't even build a platform together.
Right.
So that's decision making. We actually, it's funny that we didn't outline agreements in here. Maybe we should, I don't know. It's kind of like these are the agreement. Like I don't know if that's redundant or not. Okay, so look at the outline of the whole process and see where in that outline you each fit. So you'll see, okay, then you'll say, where do we overlap? Where do you overlap? And if you don't overlap, then it doesn't matter. And then you just, first steps first. So if there is funding involved, if we have a membership model, and we've all agreed as a whole body so far, the last year we've all been working together, and this means the whole collective has come together on the next steps process and decided that the outline that we're using says, hey, get on an organizational level before you do anything. Learn how to do decisions together next. Get your finances together and find out how you're going to pay each person. You know, before you start working together, like figure these things out, right? Like, and so someone comes in and they're like, oh, I've got a new technology to put in the thing. Say, okay, well, have you gone through, you know, first they need to go through that whole process before anything. And let's say they've gone through it and they're ready. And they say, I got a technology. And you go, great. And right now we've onboarded people to the, you know, we've onboarded people, they're in groups and they're starting to work together. Now we're building a village, but the technologies is still not there because we're still building a village. We still got to have a space that we share together. They could group with someone. So this is where the next steps may or may not align is if they're in a different funding model, which would be a different master plan. So for instance, so I would say, look at the outline of the, so I would say before that even, that they would have to match master plans. So if they're on a different master plan altogether, that's going to kind of show them that they're on a different piece of the outline.
Right.
So they're still building the new earth, but one person's building a company that's decentralized and one person's building a village that is a physical thing. Both important, maybe, but they might have a different, they might need to have a different funding model, for instance. If it's an organization, they can do that. They can build a community with its access. But so they match master plans. They look at the outline of the whole process to see where each one fits in. That's assuming that they're on the same master plan. Now within that, they decide where they fit. Do they overlap? If they do, first steps first. I'm not sure about that yet. And then they would have to, let's say that they're on the same steps. So that there are two companies doing the same thing. Let's assume that. Okay. So we need to decide they're doing the same thing. They've got different ways of doing it. Does it revert? Okay, so that we're wanting to take two platforms. Let's just take a good example of Facebook. We want to mix Facebook with LinkedIn,
Right.
for example. So let's say that they work together in the same way and they're willing to merge and they're willing to share funding models. They've already got all that done because this says that they've matched master plans. They're not going to even be grouping next steps unless they've linked. Nobody's going to work together at all unless they're in the same organizational structure.
Right.
So Facebook and LinkedIn are going to work together, and they say, okay, cool. We're on the same model. We're going to regroup our teams, and we're all like ready to do this together. We go, great. We can get the adoption of everyone. We can get them in, they can put this or that, but we get to share so much more in this process. Like this can empower both of us. It's a great partnership. Okay. Assuming they're doing the same thing, they have different steps. So intention is to merge next steps. Do they need to redefine their
one
intention?
area that we could take a look at when we start assuming they're doing the same thing, right, is to basically start getting rid of duplicated functions, you might say. Give an example. If one company has an accountant and the next company also has an accountant and they're both doing accounting, it could become more efficient to bring into alignment so there's not a duplicated function, is have one person do both accounting and have maybe the other person either finds another job or he works within the same accounting office doing some other area that they were falling behind on in both areas.
Cool. So I said see overlap. All overlap is, so here's how I see what you said. All the overlap would be handled by, because we're saying, okay, you guys are jumping into the same organizational model. As soon as you are in sync, now we're going to pay for that. Because you're coming to a shared model.
Right.
Now you've still got your old company. Facebook still gets revenue coming in from Facebook. LinkedIn still gets LinkedIn revenue until they actually merge. So it's like this. We have a shared platform we're building. As this thing gets built out, it becomes this big, massive, social networking plus project management. It's like this big, awesome platform that we all get to put onto, right?
Right.
Now, this other big company that comes in, like Facebook, goes, hey, we have a piece to click in. We're going to keep our customers here, but we want, as soon as they put their platform into the mix, there's stuff that overlaps and stuff that doesn't. Like, we don't need 80% of that, but there's 20% of that we do need. They throw it in, they go, cool, let's put it in here. Now everyone in the collective is building on that versus just Facebook.
Right.
So now it becomes expansive. So everything they put in the pot turns into a bigger co-created thing that has the adoption of everyone. What they don't put into the pot is, it's kind of like having 7 different electric vehicles. They get to sell their electric vehicle all day long, but the technology they put in the pot turns into their share. They get the profit from the shared results. That's pretty much that simple. And in this case, we're not talking about profit as in money. We're saying, we're looking at it as true wealth, passion, purpose, joy, all that. So we're producing an environment, a lifestyle for people with access-based agreements that gives them access to everything as individuals, not as a company. We're not looking at it as a company. They used to say a company is a living thing. It has rights as a human, the corporation, right? We're saying, no, it's not. We are people. And we get, as creators together, joining together, we have personal access to this that we are building together, which means the lifestyle, the passion, the purpose. We get to go through the training program, find our purpose. We get to have our friends and family go through it, and we get to actually step into true wealth as a human. And that's our reward. So when we have true wealth and we have everything we possibly wanted, why would we want more money? That's just ego. What are we going to do? Turn away from what we've built and go do something else? That would be silly, right? Like that more money's already being poured into the collective, and it's already sprouting areas for other people to jump in. And who's going to be first is our friends and family. So we're already secure in that. So we don't need to think individualistically like that, like about profit like that.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's worded well right there. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so we're going down to the people involved. And, if someone just wants to, well, I don't care, I want my own yacht, I want to be separate from y'all, then they're not really in the agreement field. They're not really wanting to, we want to share a water park instead of having everyone have a pool in their backyard. That's a waste. And that's silly. We just share a whole water park. Now together we get to have this giant fun center compared to just a pool.
Yeah, when you're going to run into that is when you bring in somebody into the group who is well off, who does have a lot of money. They're more likely going to want to have parts of their life where it's their life, and that'll be fine, I think, as long as it's separate from what else is going on,
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand what you mean. It's like you don't want it to. If they put too much attention on it all the time, then yeah, they're not really part of the collective then. So,
Yeah, and the sad part is if they do own a company and they're the sole proprietor and they're the only decision maker, if it's a bunch of investors, they'll probably want to do this because none of them by themselves can build a green city that has everything amazing. And even if they did, it would be them. They wouldn't even have any neighbors. They wouldn't be flowing in energy. It wouldn't be amazing. It would be like they can't do it on their own. So no matter how.
I was talking about this exact subject with Tony one day, and he was saying, well, everybody should just be willing to give everything they have into it. And I said, yeah, that might be the ideal scene. But if they're new to the group and they don't really have the same purpose in line, we're about to cut somebody off who could, flow a lot of power to this group, but they're not totally in agreement with giving everything they have to the group, And I said, well, it's fine. Why don't we just allow them to be involved to the degree they want to be involved with, and then operate from that angle. If they have something on the side that they're already doing, then that's on the side that they're already doing it. But when they work with us, they're working with us under the same agreements that we're working under,
Yeah. Yeah, and so I see that. I'll tell you how I see that. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm going to do a Google Doc for our previous calls so people can get a little more coherence. Right now it's just posted. Yeah, that's one thing I hadn't done.
That'll be good. I'll be able to access through that Google Drive, right?
Yeah, yeah. You'll be able to go there. There'll be a page that says recorded calls. It'll be in the overview. And it'll say call 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll give you a link.
All
right. Yeah, I see that as there's a couple ways that can look, but let's just say someone comes into a village and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I see the flow of energy. I want to put everything I can into this. There's got to be a way for them to do that. And, they can turn their currency into something that gives them, a certain level of experience. You can't buy everything with money in this case, though. There's certain things you have to go through the process and agreements and get in the flow energetically, right, or you don't get in there because you're going to mess it up, throw it off balance. So, they can pitch in and have a good experience level, or they can have more time off or something because they, depending on what agreements they're making with the collective. So that can happen, and then they can donate. They can always donate. So
right,
get a high membership. I call it a high membership level. So they're getting as much as they can possibly get, and if they want to donate above and beyond that, great. And we can.
Yeah. Like when I talked to Tony about that exact subject, I said, you don't want people coming in and buying in to control position. The people that should have control are the people that are actually active, the people that are involved in doing it. If they're just coming in with money, then that's their involvement level. It doesn't necessarily give them power of choice. It gives them, gives them other, powers. You know what I mean? But not controlling power, which is what the current paradigm is used to. So anybody can just come along and buy positions of control, which obviously is not an ideal situation. So yeah, I think if we keep different types of contributions separate from other things, then yeah, you could be very good. If the guy is also involved and he's working 75 hours a week on the projects and he's like very involved in the projects and he's giving good money, well, that's the whole new thing. But if he's just giving money, then yeah, I wouldn't think that would give them controlling power.
No, not at all. And what we can do, we give them a higher membership. The highest membership is probably going to allow you, they can sponsor. So I'm actually going to write this down somewhere. I don't know if it goes in here. Let me think. I want to put it on a separate note for now. It goes into the membership model. So membership, and it goes into the gift hybrid, right? So this is what we're creating. Let's say that that's what we choose. And I think that's where we're leaning towards, to be honest with you. So if they gift, first of all, they're going to buy their highest membership. So they get the highest membership. So highest, so number one, they're going to buy the highest membership, giving them the fullest access they can get.
Right.
They may even be able to buy, they may be able to pay one of our team members. So number two, they're going to want to pay one of our team members, pay team members to mentor them through the process. So they have a special mentor helping them through the process to gain those other access levels quicker.
Right.
Okay, so they mentor through the process. So they're giving more money so that somebody can do that. Then the third thing they could do is they can sponsor people from a pool of people that are ready and trained and ready. So they have to have gone through the alignment and the agreement levels, and they're waiting in a pool. And if that's their son, cool. Have him, pay for someone to help him go through it fastly, get him in the pool, and sponsor him so that he has a membership. Right? If he's in alignment with the agreements. Otherwise, he gets to make his own, right? You can do all that. So the fourth thing, obviously, they can also they can buy the highest membership, or they can actually pay to create own agreement field. I mean, if they're not in alignment with agreements, then right now we have no help for them on a universal scale. We're offering as a part of our membership, we're offering people to create space agreements with them, not organizational. So they can pay us to help them create an organizational field, modification, or a universal. They would have to do the whole thing on their own without the network.
Right.
So that's a possibility, though. I mean, they would have to pay a lot for that. But if let's say they jump into our membership, full access, then they pay a member or a mentor, then they can sponsor people from a pool. And then the last thing they could do, this is what I was thinking at first, is they could get their name and special recognition plus tax-free donation.
Right.
So they could say, hey, how much are you giving us above and beyond what they spent in these other levels? And they say, well, I want to give, I'm billionaire. I want to give $5 million. I want to basically create a whole, business park or a whole district. I mean, who knows, what they want to create. And we go, okay, well, this whole district's going to be named whatever you want it to be named.
Right.
And we're going to give you a special recognition. Like we're going to have a video that like people can access in this neighborhood, put a little, statue of you showing you that you were the donor that made this happen in the beginning. Give them a legacy, sort of.
Right.
People love that. Plus tax-free, that lowers their taxes at the end of the year.
Yeah.
We can drop them down a tax bracket and actually save them money.
Yeah, that seems to do good.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, that's a side note from what we're doing. Do you have anything else you could see going into that?
No, that looks pretty good.
You know, so in the, I mean, we're still talking pretty futuristic, but yeah, when people want to come in and put their money in, it doesn't give them more control, but they can have the highest access that they can possibly have, you know, with money. And then they can be zoomed through the training program. They still have to be in alignment, though, in agreement.
Right.
And they still get to make decisions only by their shared agreement fields. And in our shared agreement fields, there's no one running all the decisions at all. You know, that's a different set of universal agreements altogether. So they're not going to ever find that in ours. They can do that if they have agreement of everyone that they're controlling their lives and that they're their slave. But that's an LLC or a sole proprietor. That does not fit in our universal, because our universal is heading towards an intention of a shared universe where we're all empowered. And that those models don't fit in.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect examples of that is you've got people that are funding large amount of money into one political group or the other, and they pretty much start getting control of that political group once they do that, you know? So, but yeah, I think that would handle it. That would handle it right there. So.
It's a this for that. It's something that's outside of the agreement field. It's a personal agreement that's actually supposed to be a collective agreement. That's supposed to be a domain of everyone's supposed to know about those things, but they give a secret handshake to the person that has law-making ability.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a fault. It's a big giant fault in the system. All right, so here we are. We're at the next step. So, okay, so do you want to review it as you see it, or do you want me to review it as I see it and wrote it?
Go ahead and review it as you see it, so I can listen to get your notes on it, and then when I go through it, I can. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so the first thing they do is they make sure they're on the same master plan. So that means that they're even on the same context at all. Then they look at the outline of the master plan. They decide if they're doing the same thing. Like, you know, we're all building the same house, but you're doing the foundation. I'm doing the windows. So we don't need to match next steps.
Right.
You know. Okay. So then they look at that, and then they say, okay, let's say, assuming that they are on the same level in some way, in the way that they do overlap, where they overlap. Okay, so where do you overlap is the next question. That's a question.
If you got one guy building the walls and then the other guy's building the foundation, then to that degree they intersect at that point. So,
and that's where you mix the next steps. And then just to remember from there, first steps first, just to remember that, because
right,
it's not really, doesn't really mean much. It's just saying.
Well, you know, there's a pretty big philosophy just in those two words. It was one of the things my dad used to tell me all the time. And I actually didn't fully get it until probably this last year. I really started seeing it and went, oh my God, it makes total sense. And a lot of people miss those points, you know, and it's just basic common sense, but a lot of people miss those points, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so you can't put the walls up until the foundation's in place. You can't put the roof up until the walls have been put up. Just, you know, first things first, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, things can change, so it's good not to plan too far in the future. You have a good idea, but you want to make sure you're doing the first steps first. Otherwise, it gets too definite to the too far in the future. Okay, so assuming they're mixing the next steps, okay? If they're not, then it doesn't really matter. You just allow them to do what they're doing. They've already signed up to a mutual intention. And this is above and beyond, by the way. This means that next step process, I'm actually going to put, okay, intention is to merge next steps for those who are signed up to a to the same organizational agreement field and have chosen the same master plan. So we can take this match master plans out, actually, because it says it right there. They've already done that. They wouldn't even be bothering if they haven't.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so we have our two next steps we're comparing, right? I don't even need to really say that. It's pretty obvious. Well, I'm going to say it, okay. Assuming they are doing the same thing and mixing the next steps, then they're going to, they should already be on a group intention, but it's good to redefine it because some people, even though they signed up to an organizational, they still have their previous intention rolling in their mind. Because they're coming from, Facebook's coming from Facebook's original intention, and New Portal's coming from New Portal's original intention, right? And so when we say, okay, we're jumping into an organizational field that we work together, and the master plan specifically, because the organizational is different than the master plan. The master plan is going to say the intention. That's why the next steps are there. And the intention in this master plan is to create the ultimate platform for social network, for everything, for our group, okay? Ultimate online platform that includes everything for everyone in one spot. And they both signed up to that intention. And it might have a little more to it. It might say like, this one is equitable, you know, like they know how the funding model goes to it. They've agreed on all that. You know, it's equitable. It's something that's shared access for everyone involved. If you're working on the platform physically, you get access. If you pay a membership, you get access, blah, 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 blah. If you're neither, you're going to pay a really good amount to be able to access. Like we can like possibly like, if we decide as a group that we want to be able to franchise it out to separate groups and just pull a bunch of money in for ourselves and allow people that are not in our agreement field to be able to use the tools that we have, that's our choice. Or we can say no, we're going to keep it between us. You know, we get to choose.
Can you hold 1 second? I need to get my charger. I'm going to walk through an area that might be a little bit loud right now.
Okay.
So it takes several hours and days. It's easy to learn our ICBM. So it puts too much pressure on the other forces of the nuclear triad. They become vulnerable. We have our bombers. Each with more than enough warheads.
All overlap is handled by membership model and or
nuclear armed bombers.
all overlap. Okay, C overlap. Let's just say next step. Overlap. Intention. C overlap.
All right. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm probably going to end off here pretty soon too, but
yeah,
let's see,
we're almost done.
This next step area first before we go. So.
All right, so this is almost done. So we're getting down to the really nitty gritty. Two companies come together. They've mixed the next steps. They've redefined their intention. And I think that's important just to kind of like really make sure that they can, I think between the two of them, since they're signing on to a third intention, they could probably add to that intention because it's super important to have that same intention. And then they see the overlap. Overlap is shared, and I would say it's paid for by the collective. If they both say
absolutely, yeah,
and paid for by collective. What's not overlap is where they differ. If they've already decided, they're going to have to either do both or compromise. In our decision-making process that we made, we have basically the answers to this. They create they don't have to create a submaster plan together because submaster plans, you only create that together with people that you can create together. Some people might not be able to have the energetic exchange to create together.
Right.
That's the sad truth. So in this case, they would actually they would either, if they are on the same if they can co-create, let's just call it overlap. If they agree to same culture, it's called the culture code, then they can create a submaster plan. And that would work. That's going to take them the whole way. If not, they go to coaching. And then the coaching looks for third solutions, and that can bring in, we don't know how that looks, if it's a group or not. And then they can just do both from there. But if they do two things, they would need to basically.
As long as they have agreement with each other, then yeah, it should work out as long as the agreements are in place. So.
Yeah. So how would that look if you're bringing two platforms in? They're all sharing income. I would say if you're bringing platforms in, it's really powerful no matter what. So you would just allow them to do both, just period.
Yeah, because it's going to have benefit in both directions anyway. You can't always, it's never perfect. You know what I mean? There's going to be a give and take. You see it in the motivational speaker arena, where two motivational speakers get together and share each other's groups with each other. There's no way you're going to know. You know there's going to be a benefit to both people. One guy might benefit $100 million. The other guy might only benefit 10 million. But they both have a benefit, and they both will benefit each other. So as long as they're both in agreement, then yeah, it's you have a nice, situation. So.
Cool. I think we're good. Woo! That's pretty awesome. That's it's an important piece of like everything.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool how that came together? Like how we.
It was very nice. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stop share, and I'm gonna stop the recording, and I'll end the meeting with you, and we'll sign off that way. So let me stop.